welcome back to Yerushalmi Terumot Daf. The share is for Shlema of Menachem Mendel Lippe Ben Chana Cyril Dresner, who unfortunately is not very well. We should have a Yeshua. We are holding on Lamed Hey Amud Beis in the fourth parak. We're talking about the share of how much you have to separate. So Beis Shammai said the share of someone who's generous is Shloshim, 1 in 30. Now the pasuk we quoted the other day, we said the shishitem ha'efa machomer hasairin. Now we said the word shishitem, which can mean 2/6, which is 1/30 of a chomer. And according to Beis Shammai, the pasuk is telling me that is the share of someone who is generous. Okay. Now Beis Shammai argue on the Tanei Kama as far as shurim or beinanis, like the normal amount, and also someone who's miserly. Now what's the share according to Beis Shammai? What's their source of the pasuk? So beinanis, according to the normal amount, which everyone else says, remember, 1 in 50, according to Beis Shammai, is me'abayim, 1 in 40. And it's the source is min hadod Shmuel. The same drush of Shmuel, which we brought in the pasuk in Yecheskel, when we add together the 1/6 of an ephah with the 2/6 of an ephah, and you end up with 1/40 of the 2 chomarim which are mentioned in the pasuk. So according to Beis Shammai, that drush is telling you the share of someone who is beinanis, but it's not telling you someone who's generous. And according to the miserly, according to everyone else, is 1 in 60. According to Beis Shammai, it's 1 in 50. And how do they learn this out? In Adodra of Levi, that's the pasuk droshes which we brought, where we said in Machasis B'nai Yisrael, you shall take echad ochos min hachamishim with Midian, the spoils of Midian, you take 1 in 50. According to Beis Shammai, this pasuk is telling us the share of the Ayin Ra. It's not telling us beinanis according to the Tanna Kama. Now, we brought the pasuk in Yecheskel. We bring another drosha now in that parsha, and this is about separating maestros, the right shiurim. So let's see. Amar of Levi, Ba'achina. Kol ha'moitzi maestros of kitzikonon. If you take your maestros properly, eino mafsid klum. You don't lose anything. Matam, what's the source of this? It says, Va'asiris ha'chaymer ha'efa el ha'chaymer yir maskuntai. So the pasuk is telling you that even once the maestros have been separated, the chomer will stay as it is, as if nothing's been taken from it, because Hashem will send a bracha and His fruit. Okay, it's telling you, don't change the measures, give the correct amount, and it will end up being the same shiur. The Bavli, of course, learns aser to aser. Yeah, give maestros so you'll be rich, which seems to be a bigger promise. So the Bavli is giving you more. He says, not only you don't lose because of maestros, but you actually become rich. So the Yefrei Mare does discuss how we understand the two droshes, how they explain one with the other. Okay. If you took 1 in 60, this trauma, you don't have to separate more. You only have to mention the following question. Now, just like we say according to the Tanna Kama, they say, look, someone who's miserly is 1 in 60. But so, okay, you ended up separating 1 in 60. It's truma, but inside Mitron, you don't have to do more. If it's 1 in 61, you have to do a bit more. But 1 in 60, you don't have to do more. So, Beis Shammai, do Beis Shammai also say, that if you did 1 in 50, which is the worst according to Beis Shammai, you don't have to take more. But maybe if it's 1 in 50 is truma, you don't have to do more. Maybe if it's really bad, like more than 1 in 50, maybe 1 in 60 according to Beis Shammai, maybe that's not good enough, right? Maybe 1 in 50 you don't have to do more. But anything more than that, you would have to, according to Beis Shammai. And therefore, according to that, the Sefer of the Mishnah where it says if you have 1 in 60, go and take truma again, maybe that's the Tanna Kama only, or maybe Beis Shammai argue l'chatchila, maybe with the Eved they agree. 1 in 60 is truma. So in other words, what did Beis Shammai say? You know, if you do 1 in 60, do you have to do more? Really, they said 1 in 50 is their worst, their miserly. So what do they say on 1 in 60? But the Eved, do they say, well, 1 in 60 is still okay with the Eved? Or do they say, no, you have to do more? This is what the Rabat Kapara learnt in the Brisa. If it was between 1 in 50 to 1 in 60, Truma vein savnitch, we don't have to give more. This price is according to Beis Shammai, otherwise it should have just mentioned 50. Basically, even according to Beis Shammai, if you had until 1 in 60, you don't have to do more. Right? Because 50 till 60 is the Shir Ayin Ra according to Beis Shammai. So although they say the worst person usually does 1 in 50, they agree up to 1 in 60 is still considered valid. And you don't have to do more. Okay? So if you did 1 in 55, that's valid. You don't have to do more. Even though it's worse than 1 in 50. Right? You look perplexed.
And I was going to say, if you don't take enough, can you just put it back and try and take a...
Well, no, once you've taken it, you've separated it. Where did you put it? Have you put it back in the mixture?
Yeah, you take out.
Well, so we spoke about if you didn't take it up. It could be, we did say if you've not taken it, can you take more from here? Can you take from elsewhere? But the question is, are you mechuyev to take more? So now we've come across and said, well, between 1 in 50 and 1 in 60, according to Beis Shammai, you don't have to take any more. Okay. If you added a bit more, I'm afraid it doesn't help. Once you've done your amount, this is it. We don't just tell you to do more for nothing. Once you've done your amount, your extra, let's say you took 1 in 60. If you go and start adding, I'm afraid that it doesn't become truma, that extra. Yeah. If we tell you not to take more, don't take more. It doesn't become truma. And v'chayev maestros.
If you haven't taken enough.
If you haven't taken enough, we said take more.
Yeah.
But here, you've taken enough according to the Maisley opinion. So we don't tell you to take more. Yeah. So chayev maestros, we're saying if you ended up adding more, the extra is not truma and chayev maestros. So the one explains like this. Rav Yissi b'Yoshem Rav Yechanan. B'miskaven liftar es kirya. So in the first separation, you intended to cover what you have in your hand if you're shear. It might be a bit less than normal. Your intention was to cover what you have there. If you didn't intend to cover everything with the first separation, your intention was always to add more. If I don't have my normal amount, I want to add more. Then go and take truma, and you can add more. Yeah, if that was your intention all along, I want to add more to make sure it's my normal amount, fair enough, you can add more. Even half the amount. Basically, I haven't decided yet, that's my truma. You follow? Once you haven't decided yet, that is my truma amount, you can add more and it will be truma. Yeah? Now, if you didn't intend to put everything, you can add on even 50% more. There is an argument on Rav Yochanan, because of the Sefer. The Sefer said, look, if you got 1 in 61, it's truma and go and take more to what you normally take. Kahana said, if you had less than 1 in 60, so you were really, really short, then go and take Kamoshahu Lamad. You can add more as to what you are normally taking. If you're normally a 1 in 50 person, you can add a bit more to make it the 1 in 50 amount. If you add more than what you're used to, it's not true, which is the normal shapashtus of the Mishnah. So it's already going to allow you to take a bit more if it's more than 1 in 60, if it's like 1 in 60, take a bit more up to what you're normally taking. Rav Yochanan, he said, no, afilu achas al achas, you can add a lot more. V'hartanina, but we've learned in the Mishnah, kamashu lamad, you should only take what you're used to. It sounds like you can't do more. So the Gemara answers, shalai lifchais, don't do less than what you're used to. If you want to add more, you can add more. So Kahana explains the Mishnah, if you had less than the share, you don't have to add on, because you didn't intend to cover everything, but you can't add on more than what you're normally used to, right? And according to him, even where the case of Yochanan mentioned, let's say 1 in 60, but I didn't intend to cover everything with that share, you can add on to the share you're used to, but not more, okay? But Rabbi Elazar said, now when they allow you to add on more, Kamoshu Lamud, to the amount that you're normally used to, yeah, the midah, is it measuring or weight or number? You don't have to do it with estimation. You can actually be accurate. You hear that? You can be accurate to get to the right amount, right?
But isn't 1 out of 50 more than 1 out of 60?
No. So which case? Of course it is. So which case? So we're saying if you normally do 1 in 50. and you ended up doing 1 in 60, so you can add more to make it in total 1 in 50.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah? You can add more to make it what you normally give. Yeah. Did I say it the wrong way around with the numbers?
No, I was
before?
trying to clarify
No.
that.
Yeah. 1 in 50 is obviously more than 1 in 60. So the thing is, if you did 1 in 60, you can add more to make it your normal amount of 1 in 50. Now, Rabbi Elazar comes along and says, yes, you can actually measure out or weigh out or count out the number. You don't have to do it with an estimation. So also in this Gaben Lahaisif, if you want to do more, you're allowed to measure out what you're adding, afilu b'midah, even with measuring, etc. Right? Now, what about adding truma, where you ended up doing, let's say, less than 1 in 60? When I say less than 1 in 60, it means you did like 1 in 65, right? You made it a small amount. And now you want to add on. Rav Yoda, Rav Shlokish by Kumei Rav Yochanan, the Asper Rav Yochanan. So Sefes Truma Mahi. What is the din of that extra? So that extra you want to do to make up, the right amount. Is it Chad Maestros or is it Potter for Maestros? Amalek, Rav Yochanan said Rav Shlokish, Mishum Yachid Ani Shada Isa. I learned it in the name of Yehuda. I've heard about this din. But he's a Das Yachid, he's an individual. And the Chachamim and the Tanakh and Mishnah, they argue on Rav Yehuda on this. So I've heard it in the name of Yehuda, but the Chachamim argue. But now, what did he hear in the name of Yehuda? What did he say? He hasn't told us. He said it's Potter, or he says Chaim. What did he say? So the Gemara says, very good question. Ma! What does Rav Yehuda hold? Lechiyuv, to obligate that extra with Maisa, and therefore the Chachamim say a Potter. I live too. Or maybe that Tesefes is Potter for Maasa going to be Yehuda, and the Chachamim are obligating it. In Tema Lechiyuv, if you're going to tell me that extra is Chayiv Maisa according to Yehuda, Nicha, I understand. That's why the Chachamim argue on him. They say it's Potter from Maasa. They are machmir more with Tesefes. And remember, Truma needs to be min amukaf. You have to take Truma nearby from where everything is, right? And according to them, the Tesefes is like proper Truma. So they're strict. It has to be from the Mukaf. So if you're telling me that Yehuda is the one who says that Tesefes is Chayiv Maisa, so the Chachamim argue and they pater it from Maisa. Now they're more machmir to them, they treat it as Truma, right? Truma is pater from Maisa, right? Truma, you give the Cohen, you have to separate Maisa from the Truma. Right, the Cohen has to separate Truma's Maisa. But, Truma's Maisa is from the Maisa. But Truma, you don't have to separate Maisa from Truma. So you're going to tell me, Nicha, I understand, Chachamim argue, pater it from Maaseh, because they treat it as proper Truma. But in Tema Liftu, if Rav Yehuda is the one who holds its pater from Maaseh, and the Chachamim argue and obligate it, that doesn't make sense. Because my Rav Yehuda, if Rav Yehuda is lenient with this Tosefes, the Isla he holds, you can separate it, Shalom and Amuk, if you don't need to be nearby. Not like proper Truma. Nevertheless, pater, is Potter according to him from Masa. Rabbanon, who are strictly to Sefes, the less lahain, Shalom ben Amukif, they don't allow you to separate it not nearby. Like Kashakain, so they treating it as proper Truma, how much more so they should require to pater it from Masa. So it doesn't make sense. You have to say Rabbi Yochanan's Kavanah is, according to Yehuda, the Chiyuv to Sefes is Chayiv Maisa, and according to Chachamim, it is Potter from Maisa. Now the Gemara brings another opinion, but holds even according to the Chachamim that Tosefes is Chayiv b'Maisa. Also, Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Yossi B'Shem Lakish, he said, Tosefes Truma Chayeves b'Masras. It is obligated in Masras, even though it's extra Truma, huh?
It's Rabbi Yossi.
Well, it's Rabbi Yossi, yeah, and it's Rabbi Yossi B'Shem Lakish, and he says Tosefes Truma. It's another opinion, and he's basically saying even according to the Chachamim. He says here in the notes. This opinion holds even according to the Chachamim. Chayiv Maisa. I don't know how he knew it, even according to the Chachamim, but that's what he says according to everyone. According to Rish Lakish, the Chachamim agree that Tosefes is only rabbinical. But they were machmir litra ben Amukov. But if it's only rabbinical, that's why it has a Maisa obligation, right? Now, Torah, it requires Maisa being taken from it. Rabbi Yossi. Now, Rabbi Yossi himself is not happy with what he just said. Rabbi Yossi, he quoted Rabbi Yossi, now it's Rabbi Yossi. Mishnah Abraham. The Mishnah is mashma Tosefes as pater from Maisa. So how can you tell me it's Chayiv Maisras? Rav Zira, Rabbi Yossi, he said, Hi, Damas Nisa. Which Mishnah implies that Tosefes is pater from Maisa? Rabbi Yossi never answered him. Amalei Zima said, Dilma Hadana Taninan, maybe that which we've learned in the Mishnah, Taram Ba'ala B'yadai, if you took Shishim Ba'achon 1 in 61, it's Truma, and you have to carry on, B'yachzai B'yitrayim, go and take Truma like you are normally used to. Right? But the Mishnah didn't learn on that, like it learned in the Reisha, that if you go and add on Truma, Chayiv B'maisrus. Right, that you still have to separate maestros on the extra. Didn't say that. So what do we see? The case of the Sefer, that Tosefes is potter from Maaseh. According to everyone. You don't have to take Maaseh on that extra. Okay? So that's what he's saying here. Rabbi Zera said, this Mishnah seems to imply, and Rabbi Yossi said that the Mishnah is Mashra Potter, he says that's the Lashon. They never said that if you add more, you're Chayiv maestros. He says, no, you are potter from maestros. According to everyone.
So you also start later, you have to go back and
if you do 1 in 61, you have to take you have to take more, and you can take more from there even, because you've not done enough. You only did 1 in 61. So you've not done enough, take a bit more, like you're used to, and that's proper truma. Don't take too much. But take a bit more, and that's proper truma. And it doesn't say you're chayv maestros in such a thing. Now, we're discussing what is the chir truma, the midin Torah, to take things from Tebel status. What do you need midin Torah? As kama adam poter tivlai zevar Torah. What would be the Torah din? If you understand Amar, echad lemea, 1 in 100. Ketrumas maaseh. Like Trumas maaseh is a 10th of Maaseh Rishon, which is 1 in 100. So the Shir Truma Gedola is learned from Trumas maaseh, and 1/100th of the Shir. This goes against Rabbi Yochanan in the Bavli, who says any tiny bit of truma is matir peros, right? Even 1 wheat or whatever. This goes against the Bavli. Amalei Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, "Miman shemate." Where do you learn this from? Amalei said, "Bepilpul chavraya shemaisa." From the discussion with the colleagues. That's where I learned it. Right? And I don't really have a tradition, but this is what came up in the base of Medrash. Rabbi Yana he said, "Afilu achad me'alef." 1 in 1,000 is enough. Rabbana said, less kan shiura. There's no share really for truma in our Torah. The Torah never gave a share. The Chassidus says, Reishis tegancha teroshcha v'zirecha. The beginning of your grain, your oil, your wine, afilu kol shehu, even the smallest amount. Now, Rashi in Avodah Zarah says 1 chita. Right? This drasha is like the view of Shmuel in Bavli. Even 1 wheat kernel putters everything. Some ask, does it 1 wheat? Is it dafka 1 wheat? Or maybe even half a wheat? There's no stopping people, is there? 1 wheat is too much, 1 kernel. Let's go for half a kernel. Yerushalmi is mashma even the smallest amount. Like even half a wheat kernel. Fine. Let's carry on. Now this is discussing what do you do when you're sent to take truma for someone else. You're sent to take truma for the balabais. You tell your agent, say utroim, please take truma for my fruit. So the shliach should take truma like the estimation of what the balabais normally does. If he normally does 1 in 50, then the shliach should take 1 in 50. If he doesn't know what the balabais does, then he should follow the middle path, which is 1 in 50. Now, what about cases where the shliach changed and gave a different amount from what the balabais does? So if he knew what the balabais usually does, and he made a mistake, and he changed it by 10 either way, so maybe he did 1 in 60 instead of 1 in 50. Truma, the truma is valid, the rest of the fruit can be eaten. And if he knew the balabais, if he wants to add more on his own account, even if he added just the one thing, truma is not valid. If he's not followed his appointment, right, and he knows, and he's intentionally gone out of his way and added more, then I'm afraid he's not a valid appointment. So sheikhus is not chal, and he can't take truma in such a case. Now, what is the share when the Chacham said you should separate truma? We read in Machlekes, how much extra can you give? How much extra can you make truma? Amar baby truma. You want to give a lot more than what you're normally required to do. Rabbi Lezer says, echad me'asara. You can separate 1 in 10. Kitrumas maaseh, like the share of Rosh's trumas maaseh, which is 1/10 of the fruit. It's 1/10 of the maaseh. but it's like 1 in 10. And Yerushalmi Khan, if you did more than that, then the Trumah's name's not Chal. They are separated. They have Chiv Trumah has been taken, and you got mixed fruit, which is not set at Tavel for Trumah, together with Trumah. Basically, you've got a mixture here of Trumah with other fruit not separated, which is not Tavel for Trumah. So Yasena, what can you do with this fruit now? It's a mixture. There's Trumah here. There's fruit covered by Trumah, and there's Trumah. What do you do with it? You can make it Trumas Maser for elsewhere. Yasena Trumas Maser le Mokem Acher. You can make it Trumas Maser, the extra Trumas Maser for elsewhere. That's what you can do. Right, Trumas Maser is the 10th of Maser Rishon. He learns the din of Trumah, the din of Trumas Maser. Just like Trumas Maser is the 10th of all parents which are obligated. So Trumah can't be Chala more than the 10th of the fruit which are obligated in Trumah. Okay? Right. Rishwal argues, he says, you can increase your Trumah until Mechsa Cholein and Mechsa Trumah can be half-half. More than that, it does not. But you can have half Cholein and half Trumah. So he wants to say, half Cholein, half Trumah. What?
1-1.
Well, half Cholein, half Trumah. He says here, if you do more than half, then obviously there's Trumah mixed in. You can make the leftovers Trumas Maser. Right, okay. Let's go. From Tav and Rabbi Kiva, they said you can add more Ad Shishai Shel Cholin. You can go all the way as long as you leave Vel Cholin behind. You can go 90% Trumah. Leave Vel Cholin behind. Now, the Shliach that's appointed by the Balabais, he has to take the share that the Balabais takes. The Gemara says, what's the situation here? Ad Kedum. Do very well, because Sha'ama Loi, when the Balabais tells him, say Utram Ledati. Please take Trumah like I normally do. So the Balabais clearly says, take Trumah like I normally do, and that's what the Shliach should do. But if, however, let's say he knew what the Balabais das was, and and the Balabais never told him clearly, say Utram Ledati, take Trumah according to what I normally do. Now what's the din? Does he have to take like the Shir Balabais who normally takes? Or since the Balabais never clearly told him what to do, maybe he can be more even, or 1 in 40, 1 in 50, maybe he can change it. Right? The Balabais never gave him an instruction. He just knows that's probably what the Balabais does. Maybe he can just take 1 in 50, because the Balabais never told him. Yeah? So he knew what the Balabais does, but the Balabais never said anything. So now, can he take, let's say, Bain and Is or whatever? Okay. Probably he'll agree to that. Probably he'll agree to 1 in 50. Let's see. Nishme'ina min hada. We learn from the following. If you don't know what the Balabais does, then you do 1 in 50. So it implies, because you don't know what he does, so you do 1 in 50. If you know what he does, even though he never gave you an instruction, as if he gave you an instruction. Therefore, you have to take Trumah what he normally does, even if he never said, take Trumah like I take. Now, if, however, by mistake, Pachas Asara, you took 10 less or 10 more, so he does 1 in 50, and you ended up taking 1 in 40, 1 in 60. Now, what was less? What was more? What was the 10? Now, it makes sense, more was 1 in 50, but it's not 10 more, is it? The difference between 1/40th and 1/50th is 2.5% to 2%. So there's no 10 there. So what does it mean? Huh?
That depends on the quantity.
In percentage terms.
Yeah.
Yeah, so why is this 10 here? We don't say exactly less 10, more 10. Well, what 10? So, Amrami Babakana. He said what it means is, Hapoiches, by separating less, is Echad Me'asora, less a tenth from the measure for Trumah. Let's say the Shliach was appointed to take Trumah for 50 sah of fruit. And he intended to take out 1 sah. In the end, he took out 9/10 of a sah. Instead of 1 sah, he took out 9/10 of a sah. So he took out 10% less. And HaMoisif, one who does more, he added Echad Me'asora, 1/10 of the share that he intended to take as truma. So he ended up giving less 1/10 of the amount, or more 1/10 of the amount. Now, Rabbi Bar Kahana gives a suggestion for another pshat. He says, but he says the Mishnah didn't intend that the shliach lechulin. There's not that he's doing less or more for the chulin, which he's correcting. He's not changing the share of hafroshes truma to 1 in 40 or 1 in 60 instead of 1 in 50. He doesn't want to say that, which is the most logical explanation. He doesn't want to say that pshat, although that makes the most reasoning. When he talks about adding 10, it doesn't mean the truma you're separating. It's the chulin, which is the tevel that you're coming to correct. Right? Instead of dividing the field into 50 portions and give 1 to the Cohen, you divide the field into 10 portions less, maybe to 40 portions, and you gave 1 to the Cohen. And Haisiv Asara, instead of dividing the field into 50 portions, you divide it into 60, which is 10 extra portions. So that's what he wants to say. So Lai L'chulin She'ein Pchas V'Tesefes Shavin. We don't want to say you're talking about the chulin here. You're changing the share of hafroshes truma to 1 in 40, 1 in 60 instead of 1 in 50. Because then it comes out, ein bechas v'tesefes shavin. The amount extra and the amount less are not the same. The loss of the balabais when you do 1 in 40 instead of 1 in 50 is greater than the gain of when you separate 1 in 60 instead of 1 in 50. Right, you got that? 1 in 50 is again 2%. 1 in 40 is 2.5%. So that loss is 0.5%, right? From 2 to 2.5%. So it's 0.5% loss. 1 in 50 is 2%. 1 in 60 is 1.166%, which is 0.34%. So the gain that the balabais gains by you doing 1 in 60 is only 0.34%, whereas the loss when you do 1 in 40 is 0.5%. So the percentages are not the same. So therefore we don't want to say the loss, so the loss when you separate 1 in 40 from 1 in 50 is greater than the gain of 1 in 60 to 1 in 50. And it doesn't make sense to say that you're taking the task of shliach when it's a bigger share, than when I'm gaining, when I'm losing. So what is the difference between the shliach when he does 10 less or 10 more, whatever it is, according to the Proshat that Rabbi Bun pushed away? He says, hey Chavida, what do you mean they're not the same? Between the move from 1 in 60 to 1 in 40 are not the same. Hey Chavida, what do you mean they're not the same? Have a Yalef time chad bin chamshin, if he always does 1 in 50, Kadu time chad bin abayim, when you end up doing 1 in 40 from the 50 sar, mafsilei shita ravayim, you're causing him to lose a loss of 6 times a quarter cup, so 1.5 cup. Kad have a time chad bin shitin, and when you're taking 1 in 60 of 50 sar fruit, metagele abba rovin, you cause him to gain only 4 quarters of a cup, so it's only 1 cup. So you go through the numbers here. A sar is 6 cup. A cup is 4 quarters. So in a sar, you have 24 quarter cups. When the shliach is appointed to take 1 in 50, from 50 sar pairs, he has to separate 1 sar, which is 6 cup, which is equal to 24 quarters. When he changes the share to 1 in 40, he separates 7.5 kav, right? And 50 sar is 300 kav. So 1 in 40 times 300 is 7.5. 1 in 40 is 7.5 kav, right? Which is 30 lots of quarter kav, right? 30 times a quarter kav is 7.5, which is a tosefes above the 6 of 6 quarter kavs, right? From 6 to 7.5. You get that? So that's 6 quarter kavs that he's added on. Whereas, when you separate 1 in 60, you're mafresh 5 kav, which is 20 quarter kavs. So you're lacking 4 quarter kavs from the normal share. And according to Pshat in the Mishnah, then the shina of the shliach does balabais that he's prepared to forego changes in case to case. When you're making him earn, he's prepared to take the shina with a small gap. When it's causing a loss, he's prepared to take it even if the gap is a bit more than the shinoi which he's gaining. So basically it doesn't make sense to say this difference. So we don't want to come on to this reasoning of 1 in 40, 1 in 60. Therefore we prefer the other pshat, where it's from the amount that you intended to take, 1 in 10, whatever. In this Gammon Lahisif Afilu Echad, we said in the Mishnah, if you added intention clearly to add more, now with a shliach who does less than what the balabais used to, Adma, we say, Terumot Truma, even though you change from the balabais, it's valid. And we said, you have to, it's not mufurish in the Mishnah, but it's worked out. We said, look, if you do less or you do more without kavana, then it's valid truma. So if that's the case, if you intended to do more, then we said it's not valid. What about you intended to do less? It sounds like the Mishnah, if you added more, did you do it with kavana or not? In the end, when you did less, right, maybe the truma is valid, even if you intended to do less. So let's see here. Hacha, with a shliach who does less, then atma, we're saying that truma, even though you changed, is valid. But hacha, when you do more than what he's used to, then we said, atma, we said, ain't truma, because you changed from the balabais, the difference in din here. If you intended clearly to do more, we said it's not valid. If you did less, then it is valid. So why is that? Okay, why is it valid if you did less? Here the shliach intended to do less, and in this situation the owner doesn't lose, and therefore they agree to it. The other case, miskamen lahaisif, he intended to do more and separate a much bigger amount. So the owner's losing, and therefore he doesn't want that separation. Therefore the whole shlichus is butter. Right? It's all nullified. Now we said if he added a bit more intentionally of what the balabais usually does, he's changing from what the balabais instructed. The shlichus is butter. The truma is not truma. Rav Chagai Boikur Rav Yossi. Tanin and Tama. We've learnt in Me'ilah in Bavri now. Dinim and Me'ilah. Amalai, if the balabais tells his agent, Ten lahem, give the guests chaticha. A piece of meat. Give all the guests a piece of meat. Vu'ama, and then he tells the guests to do. Don't take one piece. Take 2 pieces. Shtayim. Every guest 2 pieces. Ve'hein natnu shalosh. Guests as they are, they took 3 pieces. So the balabai said, give one piece. The shliach told everyone, take 2. And what do? They took 3. Then we find out the meat was all hektish. So there's Issa Me'ilah here. They've eaten from hektish. Who transgressed here? Well, the balabais transgressed. We're telling him to eat a piece of hektish. The shliach transgressed because he gave more than what the balabais agreed. And they've transgressed because they've eaten more than what they were told to eat. Right, we find out it was all hektish. Kulan balu. They've all transgressed. Now here, the shliach intended to add on more than what the balabais said. He told the guests to take 2. The balabais never said to him, give them 2. He said, give them 1. But he still considered the shliach of the balabais. The balabais transgresses, as well as the shliach. So even though the shliach changed intentionally from the words of the balabais, the shlichus was not cancelled. And the shinoi to Sefes is like, okay, there's an extra. The balabais said 1, he said 2. So he's over, balabais is over. We don't say the shlichus is cancelled. But in our Mishnah you're saying, if the shliach added more than the balabais, he's changing from his view, the shlichus is batel. The truma is not truma. Surely there is a contradiction here. Amen. Rav Yossi answered back. Tamar, look, in Me'ilah, when he gives them more than what is commanded, Mechaticha V'Shaina, once the first piece of meat is eaten by them, that's the end of the shlichus. Nistayma shlichus balabais. At that point, his agency finishes. At that point, the balabais is moel. They ate 1 piece, that's it. That is the agency from the shliach, from the balabais. And that, an extra one, doesn't nullify the shlichus. The shlichus still plays. Now there's another piece going on. But the shlichus was done. But here, when you're separating more truma than normal, are you going to tell me every wheat that's the end of the agency? We're not going to say that. He's appointed to be masakin the whole amount. And he intended to separate in one go. So his extra that he added on, more than what the balabais is used to, is done at the time of the shlichus, not after it. And if that's the case, then this should be mevata the shlichus. and therefore the truma is not truma. You hear that? He's doing it all in one go. It's not like the piece of meat. One piece was the shlichus of the balabais, the next piece was separate. Now the Gemara says, what situation will truma be like the din of me'ilah, and then the hafrosha will not be mevatel, even though he changed from the balabais? What's the difference between them, the shlichus of the truma to the shlichus of me'ilah? In which case will they be? In what case will they be similar? The following case: the shliach had two amounts, two mounds. One was corrected through the balabais, according to the amount the balabais usually decides. And one was corrected not like the data of the balabais. Yeah? So it's two mounds. One he followed the balabais instruction and one he doesn't. In this situation, the first hafrosha is not butter, even though he changed from hafrosha in the second truma. And this situation is like the case brought with me'ilah. The part that he followed the balabais instruction remains, and the shlichus was not batel by changing afterwards with something else. So the shlichus remained. That one he followed the shlichus, and this one he didn't follow the shlichus. So that will be a similar case to what we said. Okay. I think we will stop here, Rabbi Isai.